Hello there, Ray here. Guys, we have a brand new snapshot. This is 23W31A, and in it comes brand new trades for wandering traders and villagers, new collectible rares, a ton of bug fixes, and other Minecraft news, so watch to the end. Getting enchanted books from villagers now has completely changed, so you now will have to work through higher professional librarians in order to get the better books. So I unlocked 4 different villagers all the way to master level. So you're starting to see a theme here, and that is because they actually changed it so that different biomed villagers will offer different books. So here's a spreadsheet showing each of them. We're in a snowy biome. That means our villagers, when they offer normal books, they're going to offer the Aqua Affinity book, the Looting book, as well as a Frostwalker book. And that's exactly what we've been seeing. But they also added it so that when you unlocked the villager's last professional level, which is the master level, the new trade which will offer, which is at the very bottom here, will always have a specific special book that will always be there. And for the snow biome, it's the Silk Touch book. This means if you want to get a bunch of different enchanted books, all from villagers, you will have to actually have villagers from every single different type of biome in which they have a biome type for. So you'd have to go to a desert and have desert villagers if you want fire protection, thorns, or infinity enchanted books, as well as a guarantee efficiency 3 book. Have to find some plains in order to get villagers that offer punch, smite, bane of arthropods, as well as the guaranteed protection 3 book. A taiga biome in order to get your blast protection, fire aspect, flame, and guaranteed chance of fortune 2. A savanna village in order to get your sweeping edge, knockback, curse of binding, and your guaranteed sharpness 3 book. You also have to make your own villages in the jungle biome in order to get the book projectile protection, feather falling, power, and the guaranteed unbreaking 3. And find a swamp type to get the swamp villagers for your respiration, depth strider, vanishing curse, as well as guaranteed mending. Although people have speculated that they would add in actual natural villages for the jungles as well as the swamps, it doesn't appear that they're going to, at least not soon. And same thing could be said about cherry. Despite these biomes have their own unique wood type, which could make a really cool looking houses for the villages that would be inside them. But one thing to notice about these 2 biomes that you have to make your own villages in, the swamp and the jungle, they both have the most sought after enchantments as their special book. So the swamp has the mending, which mending can be applied to pretty much anything, and same thing for unbreaking, which comes from the jungle, which is going to make it tough to get these books. But overall, the whole reason why they made this change is because they want to make villager trading more balanced. Because normally you could just find some villages in a village, convert them over to librarians, have a chance of getting a really good enchanted book in the first trade without having to unlock all the different professions levels, which could be like unbreaking or even like a mending book. And because getting emeralds is easy even with trading villagers, it wasn't too difficult to just consider this the best way to get enchanted books, completely ignoring enchanting tables and their use in enchanting different things. Or actually going out and looting structures to find those enchanted books which are hidden within. So rather than like buffing the enchanting tables or the loot from structures, it made a lot more sense for them to just rebalance villagers and making it more of a progression in the game. Now the villagers still can sell the highest level for their first trade. Like here we got a Bane of Arthropods 5 book, and for a decent price. Now the way they rebalance them seems pretty good. Encourages players to unlock all the way to the last trade to get those special books, which are all really good ones overall, but also encourage players to go out to different types of biomes and to not only find the natural villages, but also have to make their own villages. So with this change, if you wanted to get all these different types of enchantments all in one area, you would have to at least go out to these different biomes, find a village, and get a villager and do at least one trade, so that way it doesn't lose its profession. But you most likely would want to unlock all their trades and hope you get a villager that has a whole bunch of different enchantments, and preferably one of each unique enchantment, and also for a decent price. Otherwise you have to bring multiple villagers all the way back to your base. Then you can always remove his workstation and then move that village through the nether dimension to your main base. And then you'd have to do this for every single biome type. That's a lot of villages you have to move back. But then it's possible to get a villager that's almost like how it was before the rebalance. Now you might have noticed that not all the enchantments are actually being offered by the villager, and this is by design, because they don't want you to actually have to just depend on villagers in order to get everything. They want you to go out and get it from other means. So which ones are exactly missing from villagers? These villagers actually never offered soul speed or swift sneaks. For soul speed you always had to get from bartering, and for Swift Sneak, you always had to be looting in the ancient cities. But you could also no longer get the enchantments that are unique to tridents. This includes loyalty, channeling, riptide, and impaling. Same things for crossbows. Their quick charge one as well as multi-shot and piercing don't show up in the new villagers. And the fishing rod ones, including lure as well as luck in the sea, but these aren't too difficult to get just from using my AFK fish farm that provides treasure loot. Which also means that my farm is now the best way to actually get enchanted books. This is because AFK fishing can grant you all the different types of enchanted books in the game, even the treasure ones, and we can get the enchantments that we can't get from villagers. Like here you can see I got a multi-shot. Plus you can get multiple enchantments on each book, so you have a better chance of getting at least one enchantment that you're looking for. And you can also get enchanted bows, so you can skip having to enchant those, as well as nicely enchanted fishing rods. So this is definitely going to be the go-to way to get tons of enchanted books. Although you don't get the one that you exactly want, you will eventually get it. And I even have two different designs. One uses a skulk sensor, one uses a calibrated skulk sensor. They both work using the same mechanic, it just depends on what type of preference you want. I'll have both the tutorial videos linked down below, but you can see on average in 1 hour all the stuff you can get. But villagers trading is not the only thing that reworked. We also got wandering traders, which include some different ones that we haven't seen before. So this was based off of feedback from the player where the people were saying that the prices seemed a bit unfair, so they adjusted those. You can see they're a bit lower. A lot of them are just for 1 emerald and offering several items for 1 emerald. And the old wandering traders didn't really offer that many useful items, so they also updated those. When it comes to new trades, they can offer logs, and they'll sell 8 of those, and they only cost you 1 emerald. They'll do a total of 4 trades. They'll also sell the iron pick enchanted, which is kind of similar to the mob that we seen during the mob vote, as it was going to sell enchanted pickaxe. Now they'll sell these kind of expensive, 6 to 20 emeralds. You'll only do 1 trade of those. And they'll also sell you the potion of invisibility, which is pretty cool because they'd obviously have this potion with them, because at night they will drink it themselves and go invisible. And they'll sell that for 5 emeralds. They'll also buy some new stuff, including water bottles, buckets of water, milk buckets, as a villager does actually use milk buckets in order to reappear when it becomes daytime again. They also will buy fermented spider eyes, probably has to do with like them making potions. Also buy baked potatoes, probably food for themselves, as well as hay bales, which is probably food for like their trading llamas. Maybe the bucket of water is for watering their llamas, and the water bottles is for the villager to drink during its wandering of selling goods. So all it does have a bit of a backstory. Besides that, the old items it also sells for cheaper prices and also has more of them stocked. Let's just go ahead and try to buy some saplings. Oh, look at that, I got 8 of them before it locked up. Let's try some glowstone. I was able to get 5 of those. And with these guys actually buying stuff, it does feel more like an actual trade rather than just a seller. Because before they would just sell you stuff and they never actually buy anything. You can actually get emeralds from just trading with wandering traders. Now one thing I wish they would sell would be like a lava bucket, so you can make a cobble generator in an extremely limited skyblock world like we did in ProtoSky. So what do you think about these changes to wandering traders as well as to villagers? These snapshots are for the upcoming 1.20.2 version, with the trading changes being an experimental toggle you have to turn on before starting your world. One of the biggest changes is you can no longer get repeatedly discounted villagers by constantly getting them converted by a zombie and then cured again by yourself to continually lower down the cost until it only costs 1 emerald. I did a whole video on this bug fix explaining how the villager discount system works and how exactly this fix would be implemented and possible workarounds that we could use for the future. Now that the fix is out, let's see exactly how they did it. So I got a new villager, and let's go ahead and cure it up. So let's see how this is. We did get a discount for curing it, and it looks like we got the same type of values that we did prior with a minor value of 25 and a major value of 20. Let's go ahead and try cure it a second time, which is the part that's nerfed. We can see that the major positive and the minor positive are both maxed out at the first curing, with values 20 and 25. But my prediction in this video here is correct, and in it I showed the new way you have to trade with villagers in order to get low prices. Make sure to check that out after watching this one. So you are able to smuggle over your good villagers who have been cured a bunch of times so their prices are all ones, as well as villagers that have the old book system. But just be careful not to accidentally re-cure your old ones. They're going to reset their discounts as if they only got cured 1 time and won't be able to bring it low again. With the recent break that we've been seeing in snapshots, I put out a poll on my community tab. For those of you guys that are subscribed, as well as have the bell notification set to all, you will get these posts. And in this week's poll, I asked, what do you guys think about having big time gaps between snapshots? And it seems the majority of people thought it was okay for there to be up to a whole month worth of no snapshots, with a smaller percentage of people thinking that we should have one every week or so, or at least every week. Also in this snapshot, they increased the chances of finding diamond ore in the deepest parts of the world. They want to do this to make the reward for finding diamonds in the deep slate layers more rewarding. That way people actually come down here and mine for diamonds rather than just mining just above the layer to get the faster mining speed of stone. I covered all the best mining strategies in this video here, which I'll link in the description. You guys can check out afterwards. When it comes to passengers, which are things that are riding on top of other things, when you press F3 plus B, you can now see the attachment point between the entities. So here you can see the skeleton, which is a little white box, spider's little white box, there's suffocation points, which are the red ones, but you can also see there's a new yellow line, and this yellow line is exactly where these two are attaching. So like here on the Ravager, you can see it's just above it, and on the chicken jockey, it's also just above where the chicken is. They now added it so berry blocks can be waterlogged. So if we just right click on them, the water will sit inside, and you can see it doesn't actually leave it, which is really cool. So you can actually make these visually floating water, but you can't actually stand in it because the berry block still has collision. This will be great for map makers so they can have it so that there's water without people actually going inside of it. Which means you can now place lily pads on top of barrier blocks. But this only works if you're in creative and you can't like grief it. You can also no longer crouch while riding a vehicle, so if I push crouch, you can see I just dismount with no visual actual crouching. Forest flowers used to be able to support stuff on top of them because they have this nice full block here. So you can put like a repeater on top of them, but they actually changes, so they will no longer support blocks above them. This is actually considered a new type of rare where you can collect these prior, and then when you update, you no longer can obtain them. Now when hopping across your different Minecraft worlds, I'll actually remember what you wrote in chat if it's a command. So I just hop into this world and usually your chat would be completely empty. But if you open up the chat and then just push the up arrow, you can see all the different commands which I used in the previous world. This is really useful in case you're trying to do something across different worlds. And I'll actually remember the last 50 of them. This is going to be really nice for me as I do a lot of testing, and I oftentimes will have to Control A and then copy a command before hopping into a new world. When on a server, now the game will actually not try to send over all the new chunks all at once, but instead do them in smaller batches. This way, when you're on a server and you're trying to load in a chunk, you won't get timed out and kicked from the world because of this. This is great for people with low bandwidth, while the person who is on the client side can still interact with the chunks as long as they're within the render distance. It's always good to see them doing optimizations even to chunk sending. If you use resource packs, you'll like this next one. They made it so it's possible for a resource pack to work for multiple versions. When in the past you need like a special resource pack for one version and then a different one for a different version. I'm really excited for this. Hopefully get somebody to make me a resource pack that works for all the main versions I play on. That'll make redstone components more quieter as well as explosions, which is really nice when recording. They changed the way how network protocols work. So once you logged in with your Minecraft account, you're in what's now considered a login phase, and you'll be in that phase until you go and join a server. There's also a configuring phase where they will kind of figure out information between the player and the server. And during this phase, you won't actually be visible on the player list. This is where they'll enable different features. And then you can move on to the playing phase where you're actually onto the server. In either of their phases, they keep track of stuff like resource packs, tags, custom packets, and as well as pinging packets. So now the server will actually negotiate resource packs. So now the player will no longer be actually technically in the world when having to answer prompts that pop up before the world, such as like loading resources. They also made changes to the symbolic link validation. Symbolic link is just a link that doesn't really take you to where it shows. So they add in some validation things to help players understand and use this security feature. Now when you come into here and you go into your options and then telemetry data, you can see they have a new link here that says privacy statement. And that will take you to the Microsoft privacy statement. Information about how Microsoft will use your data. If you care about your privacy, be sure to check this out. Resource packs and data packs got updated to version 16 with a bunch of different changes, which I'll have this linked to in the description. Did you leave a like on the video? In Java Edition, you can put water in a cauldron, and if you have some banners that have some patterns on them, you can right-click the cauldron to clean them. These new clean banners will now have a new NBT tag, which you can actually see when hovering over it, compared to the old banners which do not. That means these banners cannot stack with the old ones. So in this newest version, they fixed this bug so they will now stack. So be sure to go ahead and collect some of these as a rare item before updating. And while you're at it, you can also pick up some more rare banners, which are actually ones they haven't fixed for some reason, which is when you place a banner down and then you break it, it doesn't actually stack with the previous ones. So you can see that we got two stacks here, but we can't actually put them together, even though they look the same. So hopefully they fix this. Meanwhile, collect these as rare items as well. They also fixed a bug that was related to iron golems spawning with iron farms ever since 1.19. It had to do with the villager's countdown timer for summoning an iron golem was actually resetting and starting again before the counter to do with the last time it's seen a golem. So right here you can see it's a golem detection recently, and this is a number that will count depending on the last time these guys seen a golem. This was caused iron golems to spawn in just a bit later than what they normally would. So now with this fix, my iron farm will produce similar rates as before. And that same problem with the iron golem was also occurring with piglin bartering, where it would take them, instead of just 120 game ticks to barter with some items, it would take them 121 game ticks. So if you had some very precise like iron farms or piglin bartering systems, it would mess up the timings. But now it's back to the way before 1.19. With the recent addition to Job Edition, where you can just right click to swap out what armor you're wearing with the one in your main hand, they made it so you cannot take off Curse of Binding by using this trick. The only problem is in creative you could also not use this, but you should be able to, since in creative you don't really care about the Curse of Binding since you can just pull it off manually. So they fixed this to work in creative only. Before, you could place blocks above a camel while it's sitting, so when it would stand up, it would end up suffocating inside of the blocks. This would eventually kill the camel, but doesn't actually affect the little trick that I showed where you can use camels to actually go through the nether ceiling bedrock as an elevator that you can go both up and down with. I'll have that link down below. When baby camels now sit down as well as stand up, they will now sound like actual babies and not like adults who really groan when they go up and down. The infinitely dashing camels were still appearing, but only when they would fall into lava with fire resistance. As you can see, the camel is constantly sprinting, so they change it so it will no longer do this. They change it so camels won't stand too close to the player when tempting them with a cactus. Unlike most jockey mobs where the thing that's riding on top can control the thing that it's riding. When it comes to a jockey that is a camel, the husk couldn't actually control the camel. The same thing also applies to llamas. So now llamas don't have to be tamed in order for the mob riding them to be able to control them. And a similar problem would occur with mobs that had item displays as a passenger. Also, slimes and magma cubes were having this problem where they weren't coming after you to attack you, so in the new version this is fixed so they can operate like this horse does. They fixed a couple bugs related to different mobs riding other mobs and how they're positioned as a passenger. So now they will no longer be so low and look so bizarre. This should also fix taller mobs so they no longer look like they're sitting way up in the air. Unlike camels that weren't on leads that can panic when they get damaged, these could not panic, so they just stand there. This was fixed in the new version, along with this affecting stuff like frogs, goats, and sniffers. Upon generating in a village desert, the game would sometimes place a camel inside a block, so now the camel will spawn freely. The camel sitting down or standing wasn't activating the skulk sensors, so they added it into the game. They added it so dashing with a camel will activate skulk sensors when breeding turtles, and when they start laying their eggs, skulk sensors will not actually detect them doing their digging with the sand. Skulk sensors can also now detect when witches will drink potions, similar to if a player drank a potion. This would be useful in making a potion farm where you can detect when the witch is actually drinking the potion, so when you kill it, it would have a chance of dropping it. Skulk sensors will now detect when the Tome of Undying break. Now Skulk blocks when they hear events, they would do this in a sphere around the center. But Minecraft isn't made out of circles, but instead of blocks, so you can see on the edge here, such as like this block. If you're standing on one side of the block, it can hear you, but if you're standing on the other side of it, it wouldn't be able to hear it. So they changed it so Skulks will now hear stuff the same no matter where they are within the block. This not only helps along the edge of it, but also throughout the different distances going away from the skulk. As the farther you are away from it, the lower the redstone signal it will produce when it hears the event. Not too long ago, they changed how shulker boxes act as if they are colliding or not, depending on what you have on top of it. So you can place stuff like repeaters as long as you can open it sideways, but something like a pressure plate, when the shulker box is open, it's no longer being able to support it, will break off. This also changed the way how mobs will actually suffocate underneath them. So when it's closed, they suffocate, but if you would open it, you can see it's no longer suffocating. But this same type of behavior wasn't working when it came to redstone. Notice you push redstone into the shulker box. When it's closed, it's like a nice little solid block, and therefore the redstone can go in it and then be pulled out of it with this repeater. But when you would open this up, notice the redstone is still on. So now power goes through them, but as soon as you open them, the repeater turns off, and once it closes again, it turns back on again. While updating my automatic disc sorter as part of my Farm Everything series where I'm designing a farm for everything in the game Minecraft, I noticed that when it came to the pig step music disc, it was a bit different than all the rest. So if we come here in the creative menu and we look down here in utilities, we see all the music discs, and they're actually in the same order as the order they are when they are placed inside of a note block and produce a redstone signal. That is all except for the pig step one. It produces a power of 13 and it sits in between weight as well as other side Mcedit. This is different than in the creative menu, where pig step is 1 over and sits between the other side and the new relic one. So I actually made a bug report on this, and despite previous attempts of people trying to correct the order of the Mcedit, they incorrectly thought that it was supposed to be alphabetized, but instead it was completely related to the redstone signal. And even though the bug report got closed one time, you could just ask them to reopen it if you have some new information, and the fix now got implemented into the game. Now if you complete the smithing with style advancement, getting and using 8 different armor trims, it will now give you some XPs, similar to completing other hard advancements which are considered challenges. You won't be able to get the glow and behold advancement anymore just by interacting and editing the sign, not actually consuming the glow ink. The fixes so rockets can actually give knockback to the player when they explode, but in 1.19.3 they accidentally made it, so despite me shooting this one off, it will damage you but won't actually give you any knockback. When trying to name something in Anvil and putting your screen into full screen, you couldn't actually change the item's name. It seems like you completely lose access to your cursor, you can't even see it, which they fixed in this version. There is an unusual symbol called no break space, and it was possible to use this symbol when signing a book so you could end up with a book with no name. So now the symbol will appear appropriately as this little icon here. Saving a sign with words in an older version, and then updating to 1.20 will no longer cause the sign to lose its text. When checking the local difficulty on a server by using F3, it's this digit here, the server wasn't actually showing you the correct number, because if you load the same world in single player, it would actually show you the correct one. So now you should be able to tell how likely you'll be to get some rare events, such as like rare mobs with armor. Despite this being a raft, if you look inside of the chest, you will see it's still called boat with chest instead of a raft, so they updated that. They resolved an issue from way back in 2015, where if you would have your random tick speed set to 0, random ticks are normally the things that kind of occur around the player and make things progress as if nature's going on, such as like ice freezing. So if you would set to 0, ice shouldn't freeze, but in some cases this was still occurring, so now you don't have to worry about your adventure maps being ruined. We made crouching the same between Bedrock Edition and Java Edition, fixing it so that the player in Java doesn't have his feet hanging outside of this little box. If you would wax a sign, then all of a sudden whenever you place a block up against it, you wouldn't be able to hear the placing noise. Sniffers have ability to sniff out players nearby and actually move towards them. But if you would move really far away, the sniffer would sniff you out and it would actually still try to move towards you. And no matter where you move to, the sniffer would slowly progress in your direction. So they now change it so the sniffer, once you get so far away, it will then give up on you. When other people see you swim, they see it being really jerky, so now this is much smoother. They resolved this issue where you could have an ancient city actually generate when upgrading an old world to the new like 1.19 or 1.20, but you can see this ancient city doesn't actually have very much of the sculk blocks like you would expect in the deep dark biome. You can now use Control plus middle click to get a copy if you're creative of any clay pot that you're looking at. The nether hanging signs, when broken, were making the wrong noise, as they were making the sound of a plank despite them being made out of stripped variation of the stem. So now they will make this noise. Bamboo fences are now positioned more appropriately inside the crafting menu. You'll no longer get particles off of brushing a barrier block or falling on top of one. You can now use the item command to switch out items within inside of a chisel book, all while using commands. And this also works for jukeboxes. When running a fill command, it would continuously get louder and louder until it became absurdly loud. They also made the ears on camels the same for Java as well as Bedrock. Camels will no longer move slowly when going under 3 block tall areas compared to their normal speed without. So say goodbye to the days where the skeleton was kind of stuck inside the spider on the spider jockeys. So now we can see the skeleton is clearly riding on top of the spider and not within it. A long-time problem with command blocks has finally been resolved. This is when you're trying to highlight some of the text within it, but then you go off of the screen, the game will continue to highlight text over there, but you just can't see what you're doing. So now it'll actually scroll as you're highlighting. During editing signs, the text of normal color would look really fluorescent, just during the editing stage. Well, now it will look normal. They also fixed quite a few bugs related to textures having a couple incorrect pixels. When it comes to the pink petals, if you look very close, you can see one of the cross sections for the stem was missing. For each stem, there's 2 planes facing 2 different directions. You can see this on all of them except for this one, so they added it in. When it came to translating the names for the different types of smithing templates, in Java Edition, they're all considered the same with the same ID. So now they're given unique ones, such as like in Bedrock Edition, so you can use the translation keys for resource packs. It's always great to see memory leaks get fixed, and they fixed this one to do with ticking tracker, where over time it would continuously add up and eventually hold up a bunch of memory. Minecraft also added in Minecraft Realms into the launcher as well. So if you have either the Java or the Bedrock Edition Realms, you're able to see that without actually having to go inside the game. So if you just come up here and click on the little Realms thing, then you could just click on servers that you've already been invited to, and also change the version right here as well. If you don't know, Minecraft Realms is their subscription-based Minecraft servers, but most people don't use their Minecraft servers because their specs are not as good. And if you want a Minecraft server, I'd recommend Bisect Hosting. We've been using them for around 8 years, and they have great specs on their servers. Check them out with my link in the description for 25% off. Plus, it also helps me out. We've also seen other changes that Minecraft made, such as now considering guns as well as firearms as being adult content, and therefore shouldn't be displayed on servers where kids play. So if a server violates this new rule, you'll get a 7-day notice, and then the IP of your server will be blocked. What do you think about Minecraft taking a stronger stance on things that occur on multiplayer servers? Even though when you join multiplayer servers, you agree that the content on there doesn't represent like Microsoft and also might not be appropriate. People often play Minecraft for the freedom of creativity, but it seems like Mojang has been really restricting that over the last couple of years. Let me know what you think. Also recently, we've seen Mojang make it so that you need to get approval before you can actually use the Mojang API. And API is just a way for one program to work with a different program by using code-like languages. This is used to get like a player's UUID if you only know the person's Minecraft username. So there's like a little bit of code that says you know the name, and then you can like retrieve the actual ID. This is useful when people like change their Minecraft names. It doesn't actually change their UUID. This means any type of mod or even Minecraft launcher that's made by somebody and needs to gather these different type of information in order to work will have to be first approved by Mojang. Now they said they did this to prevent bad actors from putting like malware inside their different launchers or mods. This also caused a bottleneck for certain types of mods and is affecting the Java community, who in the past mostly had free open access to making mods however they want. For smaller and lighter mod, this shouldn't be a problem. But what do you think about Mojang slowly putting a squeeze on it? Will Java eventually lose access to making mods similar to how Bedrock Edition has? More recently, we've seen the update of the icon at the top of the Minecraft application change from like a grass block to a dirt block when you're playing in the snapshots. But they also changed the icon that you see for the Minecraft launcher. So for the Java launcher, it turns out to be like this little square creeper face, but it's grayed out. The Bedrock Edition launcher has a green version of this. Minecraft probably did this to try to get their icons to look unique, not get confused with other third-party launchers, and also look similar to their icons that they have on their social media. Let me know what you think of all these changes, and don't forget, I live stream every Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at 2 p.m. Eastern. And if you're able to help, I have a Patreon with a bunch of perks, including getting your name up above. I will see you over my live stream. Bye-bye.